Girl brings girlfriend home. Dad notices weird similarity. They looked at each other, trying to prepare themselves before they opened up the DNA results. They wanted to keep it together, but their eyes grew tearful, and their hearts were hammering in their chests. They had gone through a lot to get to this point and didn't know what to think. They were about to open the envelope, but that was before one of them asked what they were both thinking. Would it be wrong if we stayed together no matter what the results are? Kristy and Aisling were from New York and had been together for 2 years. Their time together was perfect, and they excelled in their academic, professional, and personal lives. But then everything started crumbling away. A joking comment from their joint social media account had started it all, and there was no going back. They never thought a small comment could break their hearts and bring them to tears. Kristy and Aisling had come from entirely different social and academic backgrounds and, therefore, only met in their final year of college. Kristy majored in art history while Aisling worked long and hard in her engineering academics. It could be said they were destined to meet because the 24 months they were together were the happiest they had ever been. Kristy and Aisling were part of the local schools and faculties running charities for a local orphanage. The orphanage was nearby the college, and that was where they met. The two girls were surrounded by several other students chosen to attend the event, neither knowing what the day's events would have in store for them. It started with a simple compliment from Kristy, and it wasn't long before they had a magical relationship. But the magic would be gone before they knew it. Aisling and Kristy were still together after 2 years, and their love had grown so much despite their relationship still being fresh. They were more connected than ever. The two made a decision that they thought was sweet and would benefit them. However, they would eventually realize how much it changed their lives. They never thought they would end up questioning their love for each other. The day had started like it usually would for the pair. They had adopted a German Shepherd a while ago and wanted to share the cuteness, so they decided to create a joint Instagram account. Their feed was filled with photos and videos of the pup as well as photos of themselves. It was a way for them to keep the memories alive for years. But one day, they read a comment that changed their lives forever. The simple comment read, "You two look the same." Kristy had smiled at first, never having given it a thought, and found it rather amusing. But new comments started branching off from the first, and they couldn't help but take them in. They read one that said, "You guys look like identical twins." Another recommended that they get a DNA test. That's when they started questioning everything. Kristy told Aisling about the comments and was relieved to hear her laugh, but they both grew quiet. They looked at each other differently now and could physical similarities they shared. They sat down and discussed their family lines and histories, trying to make sense of it. They needed answers, but what they found had them rushing to get their DNA test. It was no longer a joke. In a video, Kristy talks with tears in her eyes and explains, "We both grew up with single moms, and neither of us knew they had a relationship with the same man. They were seeing him around the same time that we were born." They had both given their mothers the call to clarify what they grew up knowing, and it was confirmed that both their moms had a serious relationship with the same man, but there had been a year between the two. The thought of being half-sisters made them queasy. Kristy and Aisling took a DNA test as soon as possible, but the worries didn't end there. Their post on Instagram had gone viral, and there were even more comments. "If you two are sisters, that would explain the resemblance," one comment read. "Your facial features mirror one another's," another user wrote. Multiple comments advised them to test their DNA as soon as possible, but the girls dreaded the results. The next few days became a blur for Kristy and Aisling as they awaited their results via physical mail. "We could have done it through email," said Aisling. "But we feared what those tests would tell us. We didn't want this to end." Regardless of how long they tried to stall, the results still reached their front door. Before the two knew it, they were sitting on opposite ends of their dining table, ready to face this nightmare. Kristy reached over and pecked Aisling's forehead. But before they unwrapped the envelope, Aisling asked, "If the results are positive, would it be wrong to stay together?" Kristy smiled, squeezing her partner's hands before they both ripped the envelope seal. They pulled out the results, and Kristy cried as every muscle in her body spasmed. "We're not related," Aisling stammered in disbelief. She reread the paper, pulling it closer to her eyes to ensure she didn't miss anything. But the answer was clear before her eyes. She and the love of her life were not related in any way, despite their moms having a relationship with the same man some decades back. Kristy and Aisling couldn't believe it. "We opened a bottle to celebrate that evening," Aisling shared. They also posted selected parts of the DNA results on Instagram, finally updating their growing fan base on the gut-wrenching situation. But although they cleared the air over the matter, the great question still loomed over their heads. This time, they would ask their fans the same: if we're related, is it wrong to stay together? The answers ranged from simple yes and no's to more complex responses that brought morality and genetics into the picture. One user wrote, "I wouldn't, but if the love is real and this is something you can look past, then work for it." Another said, "You can't procreate, so where's the harm?" While another wrote, "It would be very wrong." One would think that something like this doesn't happen very often. However, another couple faced a similar situation, with an entirely different outcome. 29-year-old Brittany Henley had undergone one of the most painful periods of her life. She had just finalized her divorce with the man she thought she would spend the rest of her life with. To make matters worse, Brittany believed that she would never have the chance to be a mother, something she had wanted for a very long time. She knew she needed to make a change in her life and start over somewhere new. She had no idea that her problems were just getting started. After taking a long, hard look at her life, Brittany decided it was time to make some significant changes. Brittany spent many nights trying to figure out what was next for her in the place that was meant for her future family. Eventually, she made a decision. But it wouldn't be easy to begin a new life. Brittany packed her bags and moved to Fort Payne, Alabama. After sending out numerous job applications, she finally got a job offer to work at a retail store. A sense of excitement washed over her as she embarked on this new adventure. She bought herself a 3-bedroom home that needed to have some work done on it. She purchased this home because she desperately wanted something to keep her mind preoccupied. Having a family was still her top priority, but it needed to wait. Renovating a house was not cheap, and Brittany did not have the funds available either. However, she was determined and did most of the work herself. Fixing her home helped keep her busy while she sorted her life out. Things rarely go to plan, as Brittany soon learned when she met Mark. Brittany first met Mark at her place of work, and he did not waste any time in asking her out. She said no, unfortunately, as she had just gotten out of a failed marriage. Even though she was not ready to commit to another, there was no denying it. She was attracted to Mark. A few months later, she told Mark she was ready to give things a go. If only they knew what trouble lay ahead. After dating for a year, Mark and Brittany got married. Things were finally going according to plan for Brittany. Despite her previous marriage ending so terribly, Brittany learned to love and trust again. Mark was also extremely helpful and even helped her complete most of the renovations. Everything was going perfectly for the couple, but it was all about to change. Brittany still wanted to have children more than anything, but she wasn't getting any younger. Her family adopted her when she was a baby, and she grew up as an only child. Her childhood was very lonely, so she wanted to have a big family. She and Mark were living in a large home, so it was only logical for them to take the next step. They both agreed that it was time to start trying for a baby. Brittany's life felt like a dream come true. Things were swimmingly for the couple, but reality soon came knocking on their door. Something happened that made Brittany question everything. Both Mark and Brittany were ready to be parents. However, after a year of trying with no success, they were on the verge of giving up. It was as if Mother Nature was not on their side, and there was an awful reason for that. The couple was not ready to throw in the towel just yet and decided to approach a fertility specialist. They were open to IVF, and the specialist explained the process. The couple agreed and started taking the following steps. However, after the doctor conducted some routine tests, he stumbled across something that changed everything. As part of the IVF process, the doctor needs to retrieve DNA samples from both parents to evaluate their genetic background. This is intended to inform the doctor of any hereditary diseases that might be passed on. These samples are generally not tested for the relation between the parents. The lab assistant stumbled upon something that made his brows furrow in confusion. The lab assistant immediately noticed how similar the samples of Brittany and Mark were. He had never seen anything like that. He initially assumed that they were closely related, as in cousins. It's not common, but it occasionally happens. However, his findings were much worse once he looked closer at the results. He immediately contacted the doctor, who had to break the heartbreaking news to the couple. Brittany could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she and Mark anxiously awaited to hear the news from the doctor. They didn't know what to expect. The doctor sighed deeply before informing Brittany and Mark that the results indicated that they were fraternal twins. Brittany burst out laughing, thinking it was some sort of joke. The couple didn't want to believe that it was true. Yes, they shared a birthday, and they were both adopted. But surely it had to be one big coincidence. But sadly, it was not some mistake. The doctor had a serious expression on his face, and they realized it was true. How could something like this happen? The biological parents of the couple had died in a car crash when the couple was infants, and they had no close family willing to adopt them. They'd been taken into state care and were adopted out to separate families. The doctor said. Due to a filing error, neither foster family had ever been told that their adopted child had a twin. After learning the truth, Brittany and Mark had no choice but to approach the court. The heartbroken couple approached the court and shared their story. Brittany and Mac's marriage was instantly declared null and void by the court. Their situation inspired advocates to fight for adopted children's expanded access to information about their birth parents. Disclaimer: to protect the privacy of those depicted, some names, locations, and identifying characteristics have been changed and are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblances to actual events, places, or persons, living or dead, are entirely coincidental.